I said, what qualifies me to talk about this? Well, for the last, well, getting on for 6 years now, in fact, it's a little over 6 years, I've been running my own agency called Influence Agents. We are an inbound agency. We specialize in using HubSpot and helping businesses in the B2B sector to generate more leads, to reach more of their target audience, and to convert all of that into real business. And I think I'll be talking a lot today about, you know, good tactics and good strategies, but at the end of all of it, the way I think about all of this stuff is, and I don't think enough people talk about this, but it's got to result in more business. I know we talk about ROI, we talk about these buzzwords around metrics and outcomes, but a lot of people are giving some good best practice stuff, but I like to root everything in actual actionable stuff that gets results. So I hope that comes across in the course of the next 20 minutes or so. So the first pillar of successful inbound marketing is, if you could hit play and go to the next slide. Are you seeing me coming through here, Alex, to the next slide? I think Alex has left us. Let me, so I'll just go through this.
I'm sorry, I just muted myself.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's not actually moving. So it's just, you know, can you try it one more time?
Yeah, what are you seeing on screen now? You're seeing the people slide?
Yeah, people slide, that should be, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so the first pillar of successful inbound marketing is people. And that is essentially a few different ways to look at people within this whole relationship of inbound marketing. Now, there are actually three people to have a look at when you're considering what you're doing. You've got your team. So you've got to surround yourself with the right skills, the right skill sets. And there are some core skills I'm going to talk to you about that you'll want to introduce into your business as quickly as possible in order to make a real successful fist of things. The second person in this whole relationship is you. As a business, as an individual brand, the key is to communicate what you're about, who you are, your mission, and all of those things that people can really buy into. So we'll talk about that very briefly. And the third, of course, is your buyer. And there are too many companies out there that are trying to be too many things to too many people. So I'm going to talk about how you can be a bit more focused in your approach to identifying who your buyer is, and then in terms of reaching them. So these are the skills. First of all, the team that you want to surround yourself with. And actually, you know, if you sit down and look at all the skills that you could involve in an inbound marketing effort, it could get very overwhelming very quickly. There are a few disciplines that you might argue should be in this mix, like SEO experts and analytics experts. The reality is, I think this is a good base team to surround yourself with. If you're currently just experimenting with inbound marketing and content marketing in general, or if you feel that you should be getting more traction, it could be because you haven't got this core set of skills in your stable. So first off, you'll need a copywriter. Now, a lot of very successful salespeople would admit that everything that they've ever sold has been as a result of something they wrote. It's not that textual content is the only type of content, the only format that you can use. But even if you're creating video, for example, you'll want to make sure that you've got the right script, that you've got the right other elements to it, you know, the description, the copy, that obviously video optimization is a big thing. Copywriters can help you to formulate the right stories, and storytelling is one of the most effective ways to create compelling content, of course. So that's the first person I would start about recruiting. A good designer. It could be a graphic designer. They could have digital skills, but critically, you'll want somebody who can represent your brand in a really visual and consistent way as well. Now, the designers we've used, you know, by default, they'll be experts in Adobe products and things like that, and really have an eye for everything from, you know, ebooks and white papers that you might be creating, to slide decks that you can use on SlideShare, to, of course, you know, web pages themselves, landing page templates and the like as well. They could be creating good PSD files to be converted into web pages. And then, of course, when you're doing that, you'll need a good developer. A lot of the more interactive and effective lead generation strategies are actually built around really immersive aspects of the web. So it's not always about downloading an ebook or a PDF. It's increasingly it's about having an experience on the website. It could be an evaluation tool or a survey. It could be something like a game, introducing gamification into lead generation. There are some really inventive and creative methods being used. And then lastly, you'll want a marketer. And I mean, this could be you. It's somebody who has a real understanding of the business, has a real understanding of the desired outcomes, has the ability to measure the effectiveness of what's going on. And also, of course, before all of that, to baseline where you're at right now to assess whether it's realistic to set the goals that you have. So those are the kind of core skills that I would recommend that you go about recruiting as soon as you can. I just want to give a shout out to a guy called Russell Brunson, who you may have come across. And he wrote the book .com Secrets. He deals in funnels. He wrote a tool that allows you to create funnels called ClickFunnels. And in his book .com Secrets, he talks about the attractive character. Now this is all about you. So we've taken a look at your team. This is about the brand of the person or the company that you're looking to promote. So there are elements of the backstory or stories about the character themselves, character flaws. It's all built around the concept that the buyer has to really buy into you as a person, has to kind of believe the story, has to believe that there's empathy and understanding of where they're at. And that could be rooted in the fact that you were in their situation. It could be rooted in the fact that you're credible in other ways, that you've spent several years working with people in that situation, for example. And he talks also about, the identity that you want to portray. One of the real popular ones is number 4 there, the reluctant hero, who, just happened upon a solution to a problem and then was obviously very much in demand as a result. And so I'd recommend anybody to take a look at .com Secrets. I think you can still get it from Russell direct and just pay the postage and packing, but it's one of the best digital marketing books you'll get, I guarantee it, and really good for understanding who you are as a business. So next is the buyer. Of course, understanding the buyer is perhaps the most important part, but also I want to get a few of you past this feeling that perhaps you want to cast your net wide and provide your services or sell your products to a large audience. And whilst that might be the case, it's very important to be able to speak to people on a personal level. And therefore, it's not really about saying, I have a product, I have a solution to a problem, who wants it? It's about really understanding a particular type of buyer. So, for example, rather than saying, you're an accountant, for example, and you can save people tax, it'd be much more powerful, and you'll get much more buy-in if you're able to say, we specialize in saving marketing agencies, 25% on their tax outgoings on an annual basis. Then you're coming across as a bit of a specialist. Then you're looking at sector-specific services and buy-in, and you're seen with a bit more credibility and a bit more expertise because you're that focused individual. And then, of course, you can repeat that process and you can create content, you can create campaigns that speak to a different persona, still in a much more targeted way. Rather than marketing agencies this time, you could realize that you've got some specific solutions for the pharmaceutical industry, for example, and start creating content around that. So it's not that you have to do this at the exclusion of all these other people that you could be helping forever. It's just it's a gradual process that you can go through, building out from this area of specialism. And as we know, specialists charge a lot more than generalists, so you'll be able to up your prices. So that's good. Okay, so the next pillar of successful inbound marketing is technology. Now, a lot of people start with this. They'll go out and buy themselves the technology and then try and fit their marketing around it. I really would encourage you to, as much as possible, Consider the outcomes and the purpose and the process that you want to go through, and then go out and get the systems instead. So there are four core pieces of technology that can sit and should sit at the heart of a successful inbound strategy. First is your content management system, and yes, the content management system is required for a website. But actually, there's two real core purposes when it comes to inbound marketing, as far as I can see right now. The first is for blogging, and obviously the most popular CMS and most popular blogging platform is one and the same. It's WordPress. And why should you blog? Well, the reality is that blogging is and remains and has been for some time the most powerful tool for generating more traffic to your website in a very targeted way. The purpose of a blog for me is about answering questions. So if you understand that buyer, again, you understand their pains, and you create blog posts and articles that answer their most common and painful questions, then you become the go-to source. And of course, whether you're sourcing traffic to your blog from organic social media, whether you're ranking in the search engines for search referred traffic, or whether you start to use influencer marketing to reach out and even perhaps create blog content to go on other sites that obviously link back to yours. The power of a blog cannot be underestimated. And of course, the other reason to have a CMS is you can create landing pages and create the mechanism to generate leads as well. So you can be building your email list, you can be starting nurturing programs with leads and moving them towards readiness to buy from you as well. So again, it's about thinking about the outcome, the desired outcome. So the next piece of technology that I recommend, and you're probably already using this, let's face it, is email marketing technology. A lot of you might be using MailChimp or similar, and actually, it does take a lot of beating, I have to say, especially for a small business. The important thing here is to have at least access to an element of automation. Because when you're running really intricate campaigns and you want to follow up with leads in a consistent way so that people aren't falling out of your funnel like a leaky bucket, you want to make sure that your workflows are taking the strain. Now, there's a fine balance here, because you want automation, so it takes the strain, but you don't want it to feel impersonal. So you really want to, the way to retain that balance or regain that balance is really think about the kinds of emails that you would want to receive and what makes you think they're coming from a real person rather than a machine. So, take a look through your own inbox. That would be my recommendation. Look at the ones that feel good, that make you feel good, that make you feel that they speak to you. And what is it about them? Try and recognize some of the traits. For example, one of the real basic things is, if you think about marketing automation and email automation tools, don't go with a snazzy template that makes it look like a newsletter that has your logo banner across the top or any of that. That doesn't look personal to me. I think the more it can look like it's come from somebody's desk, that it's come from their own personal account by their own hand, the better. Even to go as far as putting an email signature at the bottom, as you would if you'd just crafted it yourself. So email automation, marketing automation tools are a good thing for you to invest in. The third one is analytics. And I'm guessing that the vast majority of listeners right now are using Google Analytics. And again, that's perfectly good. Really, the important thing here is that you are gathering insights about the visitors on your site. And as much as possible, you're acting upon them. So, one of the real basic things that I know Google talk a lot about is keeping an eye on your bounce rates, for example, which pages are responsible for people leaving your website. Now, some pages, you have to accept a high bounce rate. Actually, sometimes the intent is for them to bounce. If they arrive at your contact page, for example, hopefully they're going to contact you, and then they probably won't navigate anywhere else. So it's acceptable to have a high bounce rate there. But keep an eye on other metrics, time on site, the number of number of site pages visited, and also trends in terms of visitation. But one thing I would say when you do look at your analytics is don't be too disheartened about the volume of traffic you may or may not be getting, because if it were ever true anywhere, it's with your site visitors, is that the quality really is much, much more important than the quantity. You can do a hell of a lot with 1,000 visitors per month in a B2B business, for example, if you've got a high lifetime value of client, because you don't need to convert too many of them to really make a big difference to your bottom line. So make sure you've got analytics, make sure that you're gathering the right insights, and make that an ongoing task as well. And the last bit of technology is a CRM system. And again, this is about plugging those holes in the bucket, making sure that you're following up, making sure you know where people are in the sales process. So when you've done your inbound marketing bit and you've qualified leads to the right stage, make sure that you've got a CRM available to make sure that you follow up with them and track them all the way through to the deal as well. Now, obviously, there are tools out there like HubSpot, for example, that pull all of these tools together and put them in, under one roof, if you like, and allow you to use them all in one place. There are other products on the market as well, like Marketo, and Infusionsoft is a lower cost tool. And there's even the likes of ActiveCampaign, which give you a lot of this technology at a much, much lower price point as well. Whatever you use, it's all about the process, and it's all about making sure that your marketing is working for you. So the third pillar I want to talk about is the customer journey, because actually taking someone from not knowing who you are to a sale is clearly not a one-step journey. People have to go through a certain process before they've got the right level of trust with you and actually are ready for sales. So I'm not going to consider this in any great length, because we could spend the next half an hour talking about this, and we haven't got that much time. But you'll get access to the slides after this. So they're available on SlideShare. But this really shows the journey that a lot of our customers go through in terms of the journey to buying from us as an agency. So again, we're using blogging at the top there to answer questions. We're providing premium content and then email nurturing as well to build trust and to address common sales questions and objections, and eventually get them qualified and ready for the sale. And so do take a look at this when the slides become available for you a bit later. More about the customer journey is progressive profiling, because you want to make sure that at every stage of the journey you're learning more and more about the prospect. So progressive profiling is actually where, on a basic lead generation form, you're probably asking the least amount of information possible, because as we know, it's difficult to get people to part with their email address sometimes even. So, keep it simple. There's an example there: first name, last name, email and company. I would suggest, even just first name and email would be a really great start in terms of building your list and having the ability to personalize your follow-up emails to hail people by name. And then if they are returning leads, then, depending on the technology you use, it will pre-populate some of the fields, so that they only have to give you maybe 2 more fields of information. So at that third step there, you might be asking for their job title and phone number on top of what you already know. And then at the bottom, the last possible step, you want to get all the information you need in order to make the sale. So what I would say to you, my piece of information here is, if you're an organization that has a sales team or has a sales representative, that might be you. Think about the amount of information you need in order to almost guarantee the sale. It could be that you need to know their budget. It could be that you need to know their company size so that you can assess their fit for the kind of product that you offer. It could be that their geographical location is imperative because you only serve local business. Whatever it is, make sure that you start with that sales information and then work your way back to that very light touch first interaction where you might just be getting their email address. So the fourth pillar is content itself. You can't have an inbound marketing effort without content. And this is the journey that HubSpot prescribes that you go through. And there's, again, when you get the slides, you'll see at the bottom here, we talk about the formats of content that will serve you at that stage of the journey, from going from attracting strangers onto your website to then converting them, closing them, and that often missed last step of delighting them. So once they're a customer, you don't stop serving them great content. You keep serving them great content, so they're more likely to refer you. So take a look at the kinds of formats and content that you need in order to make your inbound efforts work better. The idea here is, I'll put this slide in especially because too many people are creating content that people just aren't interested in. And they will put their fingers in their ears and you know, start making noise and close their eyes because you haven't compelled them enough. So don't create content for content's sake. We all know the internet is full of content, and it doesn't need any more content for content's sake. It needs real, valuable pieces. Google knows this, and SEO has changed a great deal recently, and not just in algorithmic terms, but the way that people search. And you will be rewarded by creating standout content that gets shared, that provides, you know, a sequence, a journey, that provides really great information. So don't underestimate the power of investing a great deal in a real core piece of content that can serve you for a very, very long time. And I'll just mention Sumo, which is a great tool, which a lot of you I know will have come across already, for identifying what type of content, what topics are being shared, that are going far and wide, that are turning viral, if you like. And that can be a real assistance also in identifying those influencers that can help you get on to the next level. And so the last pillar I want to talk about in the very short space of time I've got left is reach. And obviously this is the bit that a lot of companies are still lacking in. So, you know, really focus on growing your email database, focus on your SEO status. SEO, as I've just said, is still a hugely important part of your traffic generation tactics and should be a part of your inbound marketing for sure. Organic social, so, you know, building your audience via social platforms that serve your business. And don't just think it's all about Twitter and LinkedIn because you might be a B2B business. Don't just think that it's Facebook because you're a B2C business. Think about ways that you can attract an audience, because the fact is even the business people hang out on Facebook. So think about the intent and think about the source. And then, of course, you've got your paid search and paid social as well. Not to be underestimated because of the targeting that you can get specifically with the likes of Facebook advertising, for example. And the idea here is that over time you stop renting traffic by paying for it and you do own it. So do think about ways to generate leads, to grow your own list from what you're paying for. And this is what I say, rent once and capture forever. So make sure that if you are using things like Bing ads and AdWords and Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, Twitter for Business, make sure that when you are paying for that traffic, that there is a very obvious and very compelling mechanism to get people to opt into your database so that you don't have to pay for that person again. I see countless people who are sending traffic to landing pages that have no real call to action, that have no form submission, and they're paying over and over again to get the same visitor back to their site. So really try and focus on that intent of renting once and then capturing everyone for the longer term. And then influencer marketing, again, use tools like BuzzSumo to identify those that have reach, who already command the ear of the people that you're trying to reach. Because, you know, why build your own community when somebody else has one that is ripe for your services? And of course, that influencer would preferably be non-compete with what you do. And hopefully there's a great deal of those people out there. And a great way to first touch base with them is offer them content, play to their ego. I've met very few influencers who don't love to hear how great their content is and their business is and how you'd love to work with them. And you'd be very surprised how easy it is to get influencers to collaborate with you in a really meaningful and powerful way. I don't like to present without putting a challenge out there. So I'm gonna ask you to take a look at these 5 pillars. Alex and the guys at Digital Olympus are going to obviously share the slides here. Go through those 5 pillars and score yourself on how good you think you are in those areas, and set yourself some actions perhaps for the new year to recruit into your team, to put some focus on your brand and how your audience is perceiving yourself, into niching into particular buyer personas. And then think about how technology can serve you. What's your customer journey looking like? And then, of course, you know, focus on your content. Is it actually attracting the right kinds of people? And and then of course, you know, pull it all together and make sure that it's all singing and working for you in a really, really meaningful way. And I wish you all the very best with it. Thanks for listening to me.